anything to say now? Thank you.
He is considered the new bad boy of tennis, and many fans already see him as arrogant, polarizing, and edgy, to say the least. But there's more to Holger Rune than you think. From his insane talent to emotional outbursts, coaching problems, and a roller coaster year, here's what's been going on behind the scenes. Okay, so first we're going to address some of the narratives that tennis fans have about Holger Rune, and afterward I'll be giving my hot takes on what I consider to be the truth. Holger Rune did the impossible in 2022, coming from a set down to beat Novak Djokovic in the finals at the Paris Masters. He became the first man to beat 5 top 10 opponents in the same event, excluding the ATP finals, and just like that, he announced himself on the big stage. So going into 2023, the word on the street was that Rune was literally going to burst onto the scene and annihilate everyone as one of the leaders of the next gen alongside Carlos Alcaraz. Well, 2023 has been an eventful year for Holger Rune. He was beaten by Andrei Rublev in 5 sets in the 4th round of the Australian Open. No shame in that. He then reached the semi-final of the Open Sud de France, where he lost a tight 3-setter to Maxime Cressy. He then retired in his round of 16 match in Rotterdam. Rune lost to Alex de Minaur in the semi-final of the Mexican Open before losing to Stan Wawrinka in the round of 32 at Indian Wells. One thing I noticed in all of these matches is that they went to a deciding set. Judging from the results, it was hard to say right away that Rune was having a rough patch because he wasn't playing too badly. The results just weren't forthcoming. Although he was beaten badly by Taylor Fritz early in Miami, we saw a different Holger Rune come the clay court season. Rune took down Dominic Thiem, Daniil Medvedev, and Jannik Sinner en route to a final appearance at Monte Carlo, and although he did lose to Andrei Rublev again, the signs were auspicious and he would go on to win the Bavarian International Tennis Championships in Munich. Although he did have a hangover in Madrid, losing early to Davidovich Fokina, we knew it was a blip. Rune was back to winning ways again in Rome, beating Novak Djokovic in their second consecutive meeting and defeating Casper Ruud en route to a finals appearance. Although Rune lost to Daniil Medvedev, it still didn't look like there was much to worry about. Rune reached the quarterfinals at the French Open, the semis at Queen's, and the quarterfinals at Wimbledon, and everything looked pretty good. Until second round exits at the Canadian Open and in Cincinnati, a shocking first round loss to Roberto Carballes Baena in the first round of the US Open, and early round exits in Beijing, Shanghai, and Stockholm. Holger Rune was in trouble at this point and was at risk of losing his spot in the ATP finals to someone else. Something had to change. Boris Becker came on board to coach the Dane, and he was able to stop the rot as Rune scrambled his way to the finish line with a semi-final appearance in Basel and quarterfinals in Paris. He then pushed Novak and Sinner to 3 sets at the ATP finals and finished the year as world number 8. So we know 2023 wasn't really the worst year for Rune, but there are many narratives from fans suggesting that Holger Rune might not perform as expected in the coming years. Why is that? Starting with the most obvious reason, let's talk about his emotions.
Well, I mean, for the language, he is.
Holger Rune is a spoiled brat who needs to control his emotions and grow up. Well, he sure doesn't have the cool and calm demeanor of the likes of Jannik Sinner or Casper Ruud. Rune's mouth does seem to get him into trouble a lot. Back in 2021, he came under criticism for using unacceptable slurs at a challenger event in Biella, Italy. Following the incident, Rune, who was fined 1,500 euros for the incident, took to Instagram and apologized for his behavior, saying, quote, "I'm young and I need to learn. Not that that allows me to say crap like that. I was taught a lesson and I think it's fair that people criticize me. I'm really sorry and hope people will accept my apology," end quote. But Rune hit the headlines for all the wrong reasons at the 2022 French Open when he was heard screaming "leave" a number of times during a change of ends, after which his mother left her seat. However, Rune insisted that he was not directing the instruction at his mother, and fans had a hard time believing the Dane. But tennis legends Alex Corrieta and Tim Henman analyzed the situation as if it were, and although they condemned his actions, they had some words of encouragement for Rune.
He needs to learn. He's very young. He needs to control his emotions because he's such a great, talented player. But definitely, I mean, he was talking too much to the box. You see, like Ruud, he was like the whole time like this, and Rune was like up and down, up and down. it's a little bit the way he is, but definitely I believe he needs to start understanding that tennis, it's also important to find your balance. And it's great that he doesn't lose his essence, but at the same time, it's nice to be calmer because you cannot kick out your mom out of the box. I mean, this is unacceptable, of course.
Yeah, Alex, I was watching that and I was thinking, it's about him accepting the responsibility. There were times when he was looking at his box, when he was, missing shots, and it was almost like he was blaming them. And I think, I think you're absolutely right. If we can keep that, sort of consistency mentally, it will help his performance on the court, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah, definitely, Tim. I mean, the solutions, you don't find them outside. You have the answers inside, and this is the main thing you have to be as a tennis player. Of course, you have a team that helps you to develop your game the best you can, but then it's your responsibility to find solutions inside the court and not blaming on the ones outside. I remember sometimes when I was working with someone, and if they look at you and they say like you're doing something wrong, it's like, okay, I'm here to help you. Probably around all those 15,000 people or whoever many people were on the stands, for sure, the main one that wanted Rune to win it was his mom. Yeah. So imagine to kick her out. Yeah. So it doesn't make any sense. Of course, he will learn. It's fine. I'm not worried about that. But I'm just sad to see that.
Rune was in the thick of the action again at the 2022 Paris Masters, where he celebrated intensely a lot after significant points against Stan Wawrinka. At the net, Stan literally told Rune to grow up.
Heartbreak for Stan Wawrinka.
And you could tell that not everyone was a fan of his sometimes impulsive nature. Rune's mother called Wawrinka a bad loser, which didn't help matters. 2023 came, and this time it was a bit worse. After losing to Stan at Indian Wells, he asked whether the three-time major winner had nothing to say to him. At Monte Carlo, he shushed the crowd, ignored the chair umpire, and gave Jannik Sinner a cold handshake after their semifinal clash. Tennis legend John McEnroe would warn the Dane that he was developing a reputation and could end up living a very lonely existence. We could go on and on with the examples, but here's what I think. Verdict: slightly agreed. Holger Rune's actions speak louder than words, and he sometimes reminds me of Tsitsipas in the same way. I want to look on the bright side and say that I'll get a hold of his emotions because he was a teenager when these events happened. Not an excuse though, but for now, he has some growing up to do, which I don't think is a bad thing either. I think Rune is already improving, so I might not go as far as calling him a spoiled brat. Unfortunately, this next issue has been his major problem in my opinion. Holger Rune has terrible endurance and no shot tolerance. Rune is an absolute beast when it comes to physical attributes. He has the power, explosiveness, and agility to take down anyone. His quads are insane, and his physical development is nothing short of impressive, but there's just one thing. Rune's progress seems to have been delayed just a bit by cramping. From his time on the Challenger circuit up until now, Rune has struggled quite a bit with cramps. And just when you're tempted to overlook the physical struggles as a major issue for the Dane, it shows up unexpectedly like Mr. Mucinex in some of his most important matches. And while he has done a great job showing his pain tolerance and ability to push himself to the limit even when he is struggling, you'd think that he wouldn't want to deal with these issues in the first place. It got so bad that in 2021, Rune literally came out to crowdsource solutions to his physical problems. Rune then saw specialists in France and Denmark. Subsequently, he was forced to develop a nutrition plan stating that he did not get enough sugar and salt needed for his matches, which is why he cramped a lot. Verdict: slightly disagree. I think that some of Holger's cramps have to do with stress and anxiety. I feel like there are some mental elements getting in the way. The Dane is super competitive and tries to be overly aggressive at times. What happens at the end of the day is that it becomes hard for him to find the balance. Rune works pretty hard in the gym and engages the major muscles in his body that's not even debatable. Although his physical issues were still a thing in 2023, you get the feeling that it only gets better from here. After all, some players like Novak Djokovic faced similar physical issues early in their careers and were able to find a solution, so I feel like Rune will get there eventually. But let's take a couple of seconds to address this next narrative. Holger Rune doesn't have the right mentality to succeed. For those who support this argument, I have one question for you. What exactly do you consider the right mentality of a champion? Maybe it's an easy answer. We could all point to Federer's or Rafa's or Novak's mentality, but I believe that every champion needs incredible self-belief, almost bordering on arrogance sometimes to succeed, and I think that Holger Rune has that. Hear what he had to say here.
You know, that I could beat many guys in the top, and, you know, winning against Novak helped me a lot, because obviously he's one of the greatest of all time.
The guy has the talent and he knows it. On top of that, he doesn't give up easily during matches, even when he is struggling physically, and even when you watch him sometimes exhaust himself on the court, you can just tell that this guy wants it more than his opponent. Verdict: strongly disagree. Rune has a champion's mindset and knows exactly what he wants to achieve on the court. Unfortunately, he needs the right coach by his side to achieve everything that he wants, but that hasn't always been the case. This brings us to the next problem. Patrick Mouratoglou wasn't the right coach for Holger Rune. Boris Becker is. I came across fans saying that Patrick Mouratoglou is one of the most overrated coaches and that he's all about social media image and virtue signaling, but while I see why some may think that, I personally need more convincing. Holger Rune's mother Anneke lifted the lid on her son's coaching situation, citing a clash of egos between Rune's former coach Patrick Mouratoglou and longtime coach Lars Christensen. The 20-year-old worked with Christensen from when he was only 6 years old, with the veteran coach helping to nurture him into one of the brightest prospects in the sport. But at the tail end of last year, Rune added renowned French coach and instructor Patrick Mouratoglou to his team. Rune had been training at the Mouratoglou Tennis Academy in the south of France since 2016, so the two also go way back. Unfortunately for Rune, he tried to work out his options with both coaches throughout the year. Both were present at the Australian Open, Mouratoglou at the French Open but not Lars, Lars at Wimbledon but not Mouratoglou. A shocking first-round exit at the US Open was the straw that broke the camel's back. Having lost 6 matches on the roll, Rune needed to find a second wind, which he did with Boris Becker. Mouratoglou took to social media to recall their journey and Rune's rise from world number 30 to number 4 under his tutelage. It's worth noting that Rune also won the 2022 Paris Masters 1000 title with the Frenchman in his box. Tennis legend and coach Boris Becker came in to steady the ship, and so far, their partnership has been successful. As a result, Rune's mother and manager, Anneke Rune, confirmed in a statement to the Danish press that Becker will continue his coaching partnership with Holger into the 2024 season. Meanwhile, Rune has also just hired Roger Federer's longtime coach Severin Luthi ahead of the 2024 season. Sounds like a plan. Throw in Nadal's Uncle Tony and Holger's gonna be unstoppable. Just kidding. Anyway, here's the verdict on this one. Verdict: disagree. I don't really find any strong evidence to suggest that Mouratoglou did more harm than good with Rune. Not everyone can be successful with 2 coaches like Jannik Sinner. We saw how Stefano Tsitsipas also had similar problems with his father and Mark Philippoussis in his box. I do think Boris Becker and Luthi will take Holger's game to the next level though. Let's not forget that Becker knows a thing or two about the pressures of stardom at an early age. He remains the youngest male winner of Wimbledon, where he raised the trophy at age 17. Before we go into the 5th and final narrative, we do need to mention that the Dane had suffered a back injury in mid-July, which I also think affected his performances to a great extent, so it's not just all about these other struggles. Christensen spent weeks rehabilitating Rune's back, a recurring and painful bulging disc issue which lots of painkillers and tweaks to his serving technique failed to fix. In many ways, Rune's chronic injury seemed to be behind the catastrophic series of results. I found it a little funny that a small section of fans even blamed his relationship with a new girlfriend as one of the reasons for his poor performances. I don't agree with you guys there, but anyways, let's talk about one final aspect of Holger Rune's game. Honestly, I think Rune is an insanely talented player. He was world number 1 in juniors, and his trajectory has been a steady uptrend. The Dane can return serves powerfully like this, has a great backhand down the line, has those sublime drop shots to throw opponents off rhythm, can hit incredible ground strokes off either wing, has a good serve, athleticism, what else? There are no obvious weaknesses in his game, and the truth is that there are no easy ways to beat Rune. Djokovic hasn't beaten him in straight sets in 5 attempts, Rune is 3-0 against Tsitsipas, 2-1 against Sinner, 1-1 against Medvedev, 1-2 against Alcaraz as of 2023. But beyond these stats, a closer look at the Dane's game shows you just how good he is. Well, maybe except for one area which I think he can improve on, his decision making. Sometimes when he comes to the net, he really doesn't seem to know what's going on. Also, his shot selection isn't quite at the Alcaraz level yet, but hey, no pressure there. You get the feeling that Holger's stocks are just going to explode once he gets everything together. To be honest, I think Rune's roller coaster year is just a blip in what I think can be an extraordinary career. I think he will be one of the contenders for slams, particularly at the French Open because of his proficiency on clay. This is proven by the finals of 2 Clay Masters 1000s in 2023. On top of that, I want to lean towards the prediction that Rune's attitude on court will improve. We forget that he just turned 20 this year, and that he still has plenty of time to get his game together. He may not be the most likable, and I sure can't say he's in my top 5 favorite players list at the moment, but I think he might just grow on us a little bit in the coming years. But for now, I'd love to see him as an ambitious, passionate youngster who should be given time to mature and get better. What are your thoughts, though? But Rune isn't the only player who experienced a blip for part of the 2023 season. Another top player by the name of Stefanos Tsitsipas also had his fair share of problems and criticisms, so if you enjoyed this video, why not check out this one? Come on, I know you want to watch it.